Welcome to Inside the Firm, a podcast dedicated to small business owners and hosted by entrepreneurs, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko. Each week, they take you on their journey of how to start, run, and grow a business by bringing you inside their architecture and real estate development firm. Get a behind-the-scenes tour of how these business leaders manage their clients and foster company culture while creating new and innovative projects. And now your hosts, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko.
Welcome to another episode of Inside the Firm. I'm your host, Alex Gore. I'm here with Lance, easy and enjoyable Cayko, and I have to stop the show right there.
Wow!
Prove it.
One of my students sent me an email, and it was awesome. So if you're thinking about teaching and you're an practicing architect, I highly recommend you do it at least once in your life because it is one of the most if you crush, it is one of the most enjoyable experiences ever. I sent each of the 15 of my senior students up at North Dakota State a book, and it's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
It's what our firm read last year.
Correct. And he wrote back today, and he says, Lance, I'm writing to you as a thanks. Thank you for the book you sent to North Dakota. I'm very excited to read this book because it seems I can learn a lot from it. It was a very generous act of you and is very appreciated. But mainly, thank you for the semester. One could label this email as me being a suck-up or a brown nose to you, but I view it as giving credit where credit is due. In my 4 years at NDSU and having many professors along the way, without question, you have been the most impactful. I feel this is important to tell you so you know what you are doing. I feel it is correct and helpful. You have been by far the easiest and most enjoyable to work with, while also pushing me in a direction about being controlling or bossy about it. I have learned things and looked at problems in a different way. Moreover, the time we had in Colorado was fun. With you being a tour guide and showing us your life, how you operate, introducing us to friends and colleagues. Overall, thank you for my most enjoyable semester in school and being an excellent instructor on the way. Your tone, demeanor, communication, and jokes all make the year better. I feel like it was a semester of growing rather than working. Again, I hope this email does not come off as me trying to suck up to you, but gratefulness and acknowledging your performance. Thank you once again. It will be a semester I will soon not forget. That's why.
That's good. I love all that. It's definitely worth it. All that makes sense. And then also, it's not sucking up. Like, it's not like you're going to have the student.
Just so everybody knows, I finalized grades 3 days before he even sent that.
Yeah. Yep. I haven't wrapped up grades, but I wrapped up our last class. Multiple students came up and thanked me. It was awesome. You reading that whole thing, though, where, like, I feel like a married couple because, married couples will do this. You'll be out at a party and someone will be like, oh, yeah, your husband's so nice. It's like, yeah, give it 12 years. Then see what you think. So that was going to be my joke back to you. Yeah, give it 12 years. Then we'll see how easy and enjoyable. But what a great letter.
Yeah, there you go. That's why. New pronouns for the week.
Easy and enjoyable.
You got it.
Use them. Please email Lance at lmc@f9productions.com.
Yeah, give him some new. Hey, maybe that's the challenge for next season of Inside the Firm. If you email me and give me some pronouns, they will be on next week's episode.
Wow.
You can just continue to do this.
Yeah, unless they're like, the blatant
bad
cuss words. Yeah, but if they're subtle and easy and enjoyable,
and hilarious. Yes. There you go.
They're in. They're in. As we wrap up this year and look into next year, it's always a great time to reassess what you're doing, reevaluate what you're doing, and see if you need to change course or not to change course. Often we do this when we're designing architecture. I have Lance looks at my designs, I look at Lance's designs, and we adjust, we refine, we make the work better. You can do the same for your firm by going to buildabetterco.com, where a group of architects get together. We go through a course that I've made up through Lance and I's experience over 12 years about how to grow your profit, make your firm run smoother, and get better clients. The same level of dedication and care you take to your buildings, you should take to building your structure of your business. Buildabetterco.com. Go check it out.
I also want you to go check out artcat.com. Why? Because if you can't find the product data you're looking for, It might be because you're using the wrong search engine. Broad searches result in consumer products, out-of-date information, and websites that hide or don't have the information you're looking for. If you need specifications, CAD or BIM, ARCAT.com is your search engine. Find and download the up-to-date data you need fast. ARCAT.com is free and requires no registration, so try ARCAT.com today. That's ARCAT.com. Last and certainly not least, Duratherm defines the category of all wood, completely custom hardwood windows and doors that deliver on your architect vision, and everyone knows it. That's why they refuse to rest in the laurels, and while Duratherm brand is built upon their expertise in wood windows, they are proud to announce the introduction of a clad exterior feature for their windows. Learn more at durathermwindow.com. Al Gore, how much of business is all about experimentation?
Oh, I think it is. I think it's about...
Like what percentage?
Know what? Well, 10 to 15%.
Yeah.
Because I think you set up systems,
Uh-huh.
and then you shouldn't be afraid to then test the systems.
Yeah.
But if you don't set up a system, you don't know what your standard is. So that's the difference. Like, if you're just experimenting and you don't have a base of which to judge it against, like, are you progressing? You don't even know.
I'm trying to think. You have my brain spinning, like thinking, what is the... If we were scientists, pretend like we're scientists, right?
Scientists.
And we're using the scientific method.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
What is it like? What you're getting at is like there's a constant or something in the formula that helps you test the variables for it. Yeah.
Yep.
So I think I'll make it an analogy back to the teaching part. So if you do end up deciding, hey, I want to make an impact in the world, I'm going to teach at least one course in my life. Maybe I do more, whatever. Is the first time you teach, you get 50% of it right. The rest of the 50% is an experiment. Second time you teach, about 75% right, 25% experiment. Third time, you should get to about 90 to 95. And that's about as far as you can get with the mainstays, the fixed parts of the equation, and then the last 5 to 10% are the experimentation. So I just want to give you some examples, and maybe you can write some down too if you have any.
And the word that I was searching for in my head, I think you were too. In the experiments, you have a control.
Yes, that's what scientist Gore.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. Some examples that we have experienced recently is we let some of our senior staff members go without final red lines for a few years. We were looking over the work throughout the whole project, but then for that last one, it was like, well, they're licensed architects. They should know what they're doing. They hopefully have, printed off a PDF, left work for the day, woke up the next day, fresh, focused, looked over their work. Maybe they caught a few extra errors and all of that. That's one example. I think another one is we let senior staff lead entry-level staff or teach them versus junior staff. And then we've also let senior staff try to sell. And some of the lessons, I think, I'll speak on just one of them. And then I would love for Al to give his input, is letting the senior staff lead and train entry-level staff. I think in hindsight was a mistake. I think if you make it possible such that the top of the cake, CEOs, principals, owners, touches the bottom of the cake and talks to the bottom of the cake, and the bottom of the cake is entry level.
Yep.
That's the way to do it. That way the through line through the cake, like the standard, the control,
the
is
culture,
consistent.
Agree.
Right? And then I think for us anyway now it is senior staff, you can lead and manage junior staff. That has been led and managed by me and Al first for a year.
Yep. Another thing, and it's okay to switch because you're experimenting and you're learning things. And different strategies are appropriate at different times of your firm's life. So you can tell me if you agree with this or not, but this is the way we progressed. In the beginning, it was low salary, high bonuses. Mm-hmm. Now it is high salary, still great bonuses, but the salary is more meat and potatoes than it was before. What it allows in the beginning, when you do the low salary, and then the higher bonuses is that you can build up that cash reserve.
Yeah.
It's very hard to build up that cash reserve.
It is. It's hard to stress how hard it is to build it up. And then and then I want to emphasize everybody too, like, you can start to, many people then start to take that for granted. Like, look at all my cash I got in the bank for my company. It's like, dude, that took a long time to build that up.
Yep. And then now we are 8 people, plus, auxiliary staff that helps out. It's an established firm. It's over 10 years old. Now it's not as much low salaries and then high bonuses. Yeah. And know what? Here, I'll even get more nuanced. It's more on the principle level, because sometimes you just got to pay people what you do to get them in. But on the principles, if you can afford that to bolster up your cash reserves, then you're not behind the 8 ball. Then you aren't feeling as panicked as much. Then you aren't making as many dumb moves. So, like, that's part of the sacrifice of starting a firm is like, and you should know that. Like, okay, I'm going to get out of the rat race. I'm going to start my own firm. Well, you just entered a new rat race that you didn't even know about. And then 2, that's a great strategy to make your life smoother in the future.
100%. Yeah. So just remember that analogy, because I think that's the important part of what Al was saying is the 5 to 10% of the time, you really got to make sure you're experimenting. Like, run tests.
No one. Okay, I'm glad you brought up this topic because it relates to Elon Musk, and I'll relate it back to what you said, right? So Elon Musk, when you're making rocket ships, making cars, making whatever he's doing, he wants to eliminate so many parts to make it simpler, to make it smoother, to
better systems,
that if you don't have to add some back in, you didn't eliminate enough. That's what he tells his staff. So, like, cut. And if you don't have to, if at the end of the year you never added back in a thing that you cut, then you didn't try hard enough.
Perfect, which is exactly what happened with the red line, right? We allowed it to go too far for a few years, and then to close the feedback loop, not only were we getting certain calls from contractors, contractor Lance was out in the field, noticing the parts that were missing.
Easy and enjoyable.
Very easy and enjoyable guy.
You can't even say it with a straight face.
I can't even say it.
It's not you. But the analogy still holds, is that if you aren't experimenting enough, that you don't revert back sometimes, then you haven't experimented enough.
It's the practice of architecture. Right?
And just like design options, everyone has done this. You have a base design. I'm going to try this and this.
Base design.
Nope, this one was better. Everyone has done that. Same thing with business.
So I've been trying to explain. So this last year I did the most. I gave the most, not conducted, but gave the most podcast interviews I've ever done in my life. I just did one today. I think I've done like 24. So that's 2 a month. That's a lot. And it was a really interesting experience because I'm going to continue to do it next year, because eventually it's going to formulate into, like, I want to write a book and maybe do a personal and professional improvement course for people. But one thing that I've been trying to explain, and that came out, it's the same thing, Al, that came out of me doing all these interviews was some of it, a lot of the stuff I talk about on these interviews, like, some of it's very personal, some of it has to do with, like, my faith, some of it has to do with business, like the whole thing. You get the whole thing. And a theme that kept coming out was, like, I would explain to people the value of seeing, like, being excited about when negative things happen, because then a positive things happen. So I just interviewed this gal, like, earlier this week, and I was explaining that to her, and she goes, "Oh, you mean the law of polarity?"
Oh, okay.
I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, thank you for framing it for me. Like, perfect. That's what I needed. I needed to just get, like, to that point, right?"
Yeah.
So if people know what this is, but whatever. But I'm still going to read it to you. The law of polarity is the principle that everything has 2 poles: good and evil, love and hate, attraction and disconnection. Think of the North Pole and the South poles on the globe, or a battery with its negative and positive terminals. Everything in the universe
magnet
has an opposite, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Protons and electrons.
all that good stuff. So I think this is the last Friday show for Inside the Firm because we're taking the next 2 weeks off, taking some, getting that recharge on. And so I just want to leave everybody with that, something to think about, right? Is like the economy is tricky right now. We don't know what the Fed is going to do, if they're going to loosen it up, we're going to get better and everything. But like for next year, if that could be, if anybody is brave enough and is looking for something to just kind of be their North Star next year, I'm telling you, the law of polarity is like it for me lately. It is when negative stuff happens, you better start getting excited because that opposite positivity is coming. And so no matter what kind of so think about this last year, right? Like what could you write down as a business owner listening to this show? List out all the negatives, right? Then list the positives for that. Like what if that happens to you in 2024? Because it has to. It's physics.
Yep. So since you brought it up, I'm going to give my interpretation and then based on some videos. So the Fed had their meeting. They held it straight. Okay. There's the next meeting is January. Basically, no one says between now and January, there's a 5% chance that they're going to lower rates in January. So it's not going to happen. And then February gets skipped, and then it's Marched. And it goes to about a 25% chance, right? So probably won't happen. And the reason why I also don't think it was happen is because Fed got hit in the face from all the bankers and the public by them putting their foot in their mouth and saying, oh, inflation is transitory. This isn't a big deal.
Transitory.
So if they let off in the season when housing starts in the spring, housing prices are going to shoot through the roof and inflation will go back up and they'll be blamed again for making another mistake.
Oh, goodness.
So they're going to make the safe bet, which is going to hold rates steady until A, something breaks, or B, probably June. But what that means to you,
So
and
you think so for quarter one, quarter two, they just hold it and maybe
hold. But that goes to Lance's stoic mindset. Okay, that's actually half a year, 6 months from now, and it might be tight for 6 months. But it's better to know that and expect that, and to get on the ball of marketing and all this other stuff than to just think, oh, it's never going to end. It's all random stuff like that. No. I'm not saying I'm not actually making an allegorical prediction here.
Yeah.
I'm just saying logically this is probably where I see things going. And then once they do, I think Lance is right that the psychological money open machine will turn. There should be some smart developers that see that it's still holding right now, and they've held a couple times, so they aren't going to raise it. So they should be pulling the trigger because everything takes so long to get through these days.
Yep.
So I'm not saying it's going to be a bad, but if they do not lower until summer, I would not be surprised.
Yeah. Last topic of the day before we get into A.R.E. Jeopardy, we are doing A.R.E. Jeopardy today, is I've got an article, and we are going to get through it, Al, because your middle name is Patience. We're going to get through the whole thing, okay? It's not that long. Okay, the title is, and this is from Popular Culture, it's TomKlingenstein.com. It's from...
Oh, it is. Okay, yep.
Yeah, sorry.
Yep.
By Tom Klingenstein. December 5th, 2023. The title is, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see it, Recovering Anti-Woke Architecture. So it's got a photo of this building up here. It looks like it's the Calhoun School.
Yep.
Maybe
don't know it. Nope.
I don't know who did it. And so the article starts, classical architecture, the founder's preference for the nation's capital, is the physical manifestation of the American form of government. Its Western roots in its political aspirations. It embodies good order, benevolent hierarchy, and reason. Classical architecture reflects permanent principles, reinforcing the natural law grounding of the American founding. As classical architecture is a physical expression of the American regime, modern architecture is the physical expression of the woke regime. Al is now, if you're watching on YouTube, pointing to Lance's and Alex Gresh's award-winning house.
Modern architecture.
Modern architecture.
Woke.
That It'd be funny if our
I'm gonna take that
client,
down.
who is same political leanings as me, who we did that house for, which is not woke, is listening to the show.
I don't know. The paper just said it. So
Representative. Okay. Yeah. So modern architecture is again, according to this author, this writer, modern architecture is the physical expression of the woke regime. Representative of woke architecture is New York's Madison Square Garden, which is plopped atop the rat maze or hellhole known as Penn Station. The structure replaced the original Penn Station, a glorious tribute to the past, which was torn down in an act of cultural revenge or at least malign indifference.
So I think they're using woke because it is such a cultural term right now.
Yeah.
Like postmodern, like because woke wasn't even a thing back when they did this Penn Station. If you Lance is probably bringing up old Penn Station.
Yeah. I am doing it right now. Keep going though. That's
actually not all, like the new. Actually, you have to type Madison Square Garden, Lance.
Well, hang on.
Oh, I get what you're going with your logic.
Yeah. You go.
So, anyways,
where I'm going with the logic, just so everybody knows, if you went to YouTube and you just or if you Googled pull your car over, and you looked up old Penn Station. Old Penn Station is a masterpiece of classical architecture. Like, it's amazing it got built even at that time, in my opinion.
Yep. And postmodern was the baby to what wokeness grew up into as a teenager. Just took a little bit longer. So like it does make sense.
Why they're using it?
Well, yeah, I would just say like postmodernism is the root because basically one of the things it's talking about is like decomposing of rules, decomposing of order, like what does that lead to? Like decomposing of society, like what is, and that's what the woke mind virus is actually doing because it tells you
your reality is reality instead of there being objective reality.
Yep, and there's so many like weird things. I've even seen like a time. Let's just put it this way, 1984 talk. There was a Times article. This was back, like Serbia. Even back then it was, U.S. bombs. And it wasn't this country, but we're just going to use it as an example. Serbia as a way forward to peace. It's like
the doublespeak is what you're
doublespeak.
Getting at. Yeah.
It's like, okay, those. Anyways, continue.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah. Unlike the original Penn Station, Madison Square Garden and the train station below make no reference to the past and no acknowledgement of its neighbors. Or if there is acknowledgement, it is in the form of a middle finger. Madison Square Garden sits alone, self-absorbed, and uninterested in the life that goes on around it. The building has no observable entrance. But the one thing that is clear is that if you were somehow to find your way inside, there would be no escape. Madison Square Garden is as welcoming as a jail. It is no wonder that it attracts crime, homeless, and the litter. I got to look up this. So
Yep, pull it up. Madison Square Garden. Lance is Googling right now.
Is it that bad?
And then go. I think they glassed it up.
Oh, did they? Because maybe it was that?
No, click on the one on the left.
This?
One over. Yep, just click on enhance.
Thank you for doing that now.
So look, like there's this weird box and okay, you just did an urban design studio engaging in the street. Is this engaging to the street at all?
No.
Whatsoever. And then Lance, if you look behind the glass box,
I will give him that. It's imposing.
Take off the glass box. Do you just see that shitty yellow?
Yeah.
And all that? Like that's what it was. Just a circle, shit yellow.
Okay, back to the article. Thank you, Al. Yeah, geez, like Jane Jacobs. Gosh, I wish everybody would read that book. The Life and Death of Great American Cities. So good. I made my senior students read it. You heard the gushing review. Anybody who does any kind of urban design should read it. You gotta address that street. Anyway. Okay. MSG. Madison Square Garden makes not the slightest pretense to style or grandeur, and indeed, these things strike it as preposterous. There is no melody and nothing to lift the human spirit. It has no ambition and not the least confidence in itself. In fact, like wokeism generally, it is a pain to the self-loathing. For modernists, there is nothing inherently good or even noteworthy about classical architecture. It is simply the architecture of a particular time, no better or worse. And yet, in the same woke breath, the modernists believe it is actually much worse, because it recalls the period of our founding, which, they say, was conceived in, white supremacy and slavery and committed to their preservation. So you see, wokeism is both relative and absolute. Whatever is needed to serve the power and grabbing purposes of the woke left. In some important respects, architecture is different from other art forms. For one, you cannot get away from it. This is unlike modern painting and most modern sculpture that will leave you alone if you do not frequent the museums which such art are displayed. Al loves museums.
Nope. I've been on this. I've been on that modern art is a psyop, and now it's woke lefted nonsense.
Architecture, that is a psyop. Yeah, and it's like a unescapable psyop, according to this guy. By the way, that usually are as dismal as we sit in a super modern building.
We addressed the street.
We did it. Actually, this is a beautiful development.
And actually, there is...
It's objectively good because it's urban infill, number one.
Yeah, there is abstract angels in the architecture with the wings that come out.
Hey, we have... Yeah, you know where you're going in and out of this building. By the way, that usually are dismal and dehumanizing as the art they house. In New York City, think the Whitney. In Washington, think the Hirshhorn. More than other arts, architecture bears directly on our sense of well-being. If it is good, it can cheer us up, give us a sense of belonging, even motivate us. If it is bad, it grates on us, makes us feel small and worthless and isolated. The Calhoun School, which is in my neighborhood of the Upper West Side of Manhattan, is a fine example of the latter. It is said to look like a TV. To me, it looks like Big Brother's surveilling eye. Whatever it looks like, it gives me the creeps. I feel I need to test my inner strength. I walk by it. Mostly, I take a detour. Most people probably would not suffer the inconvenience small as it is, but I am quite sure they, like me, are unsettled by this building, which doubtless was the architect's intent. There came a time when the Calhoun School needed to expand. One of the architects who was bidding on the commission asked the school's headmaster what sort of statement the school would like to make with the addition. The headmaster responded, quote, "We made our statement and now wish to retract it," end quote. Would there were so many such retractors. Modern architecture is monotonous and sexless. Non-binary, if you prefer. Oh, my God. It goes on to great length to eschew decoration. Like a meal taken intravenously.
Wow.
It provides the necessary nutrients, functional interiors, but none of the conviviality and sensual pleasure of a good meal.
Okay. I love that we're reading through it. We're getting through it all. I got to throw you a question.
It's almost done, I swear.
I got to throw you a question in this. One of the best pieces of architecture that you would agree with in Denver is Clifford Still.
Mm-hmm.
Woke nonsense?
Well, okay, but here's the difference.
Okay.
The Clifford Still Museum.
Yep.
I can argue there's a sex. Like I will argue there's a gender to it. It is a masculine form. It's it's not curvy. It is boxy. It is all of that way, but it's contextual. It's contextual. There's texture to it, literally.
Yep.
Just like your nice beard there, Al.
Thank you.
Yeah. So like and I pointed this out to my students, like imagine if they didn't board form the concrete.
Yeah.
Like
or put those wood slats.
Yes, and the wood accents, right? And then just the smell, like it has a smell to it. It has this like amazing smell to it. By the way, do you know the Clifford Still collection was supposed to go to North Dakota at one point?
North Dakota's
Jennifer Brandel, so one of my colleagues up at North Dakota State, she told me this, and she said she said Clifford Still. She goes, I don't know if you know this, but Clifford Still's my favorite artist of all time, and I go, he's probably top 3 for me too.
Is he from North Dakota?
Why not?
Oh, yeah. And the other thing.
What do you think of what I said though about the museum?
Thank you. The other thing that very much helps, it's set back from one of the roads, and a park is put in front of it, and that helps because you enter walking through the park. The side of it, which I think is still beautiful, is kind of. They have some nuance and all that, but you could argue that that's oppressive, a little bit oppressive.
This side, especially.
Yep.
This is the what I've got pulled up on the screen is the east side.
Yep, and then go back a shot. So the east side.
Well, just hang on. Let me get through them because now I'm on Arc Daily's website, which we should have a good gallery. So I'm going to keep going.
And then this allows you to enter and all that.
This like here, what I'm showing on the screen now is. Oh, why did it do that? Is you know where to enter the building.
Yep.
Is all.
But I do want to show
The park side.
Yep, and not that one. If you just go back on your
I'll
arrow,
go back. I'll do what you want.
and then click on.
Clifford Still Museum. 1 sec. Okay, now I'm there. Yep, I'm just going to images. Give me 1 second. I didn't even spell it right. Which one? That one? Oh, okay, here. Yep, Alice. Okay, we're up there.
So that just contrasts the building, and that's how you walk through. Is you walk through with this green. And what's crazy too is that the museum does something that most buildings don't do. It is very repressive, and it's very heavy over you. And then you immediately walk up, and the whole ceiling is glass. So it does something experientially to you that other things don't. So like it's one of the most successful woke buildings.
That was actually a perfect way to segue back to the article. There's something else distinctive about architecture. We lay people, Al Gore, are not allowed to have an opinion about it. What the general public thinks is irrelevant. Movies and television are different. In these cases, we are entitled to criticize as we are with any commercial product. Producers try to make things we like, otherwise we won't buy them, and they go broke. There are professional movie critics, supposed experts, but it's not they so much as our friends, fellow citizens who tell us what is worth watching. Today, in some areas of American life, people are standing up for themselves and rejecting rule by experts. For example, K through 12 education, but in the case of architecture, we all sit perfectly still and take on the chin. There are a few dissenters, but they, like all critics of the woke regime, are shamed and censored. For the most part, we no longer have architecture critics in our newspapers, which is another way of telling us that we need not concern ourselves with something that is manifestly does concern us. Don't worry your pretty little head about it, we are told. Just leave it to the Anthony Faucis of the architecture world. Whoa, I never thought I'd see that in the same sentence.
Yeah,
you're going to say something.
Yeah, and it reminds me of when the Rotten Tomatoes gives a movie, the experts, the critics give it like a 5, and the audience is like, this is a 95. This is the best movie ever.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Here's the problem. So, like, this got posted in the anti-architect community. It was so funny. It's like people on both sides get accused of being closed-minded and not seeing or hearing the other side. And it's usually the people who are, like, accusing the people of do that who are the most closed-minded, in my opinion. Like, I feel like there's a lot of society that uses projection, and it's horrible. First comment that got posted in after this article got posted, because that's where I found it at, was the guy was like, he's like, I read this guy doesn't trust the experts. I'm not going to read the article any further. It's like, well, what even makes an expert, right? A lot of it comes down to, yes, there's credentials, right? So like, okay, I went to school for X amount of time. Now and then I went and practiced whatever my profession is for X amount of time. But it's like you and I say, okay, does that make him an expert? There's two problems with it. These experts every time. And I consider myself an expert, okay, in certain categories. I think there's two problems with it. The first problem with the expert part of it is, what if they were taught wrong? What if they've been doing it wrong for their whole lives, or mostly wrong, right? Mm-hmm. Are they actually an expert, or are they just like a person with a title who's doing it wrong, right? I mean, this is truly something that could be, that's debatable, right?
Yep.
And then the second one is, just like Anthony Fauci, like, or these movie critics, that's a better one, or the movie critics. A lot of times the movie critics are just siloed in their little silo, on their ivory tower, completely out of touch with the layman, the average person, and therefore, who cares about your opinion? Or how right, or your expertise on the matter. Like, if you're completely out of touch with reality, are you an expert?
I have another one too. Misapplied expertise, meaning. Actually, I'll go to my second one.
Okay.
They're using the wrong judgment criteria. That's what I'll say. Okay. So imagine, let's go to the health. Okay. Imagine that you are a prominent doctor. Right? So you're an expert in surgery or whatever it is.
Feet.
Heart, feet, doesn't even matter. Maybe you're the best general doctor there is, right? And you get paid because you're an expert to now be the spokesman for a weight loss pill. They are an expert. You should listen to them. Someone who's not an expert, I don't know, David Goggins, just a guy running around. Literally, that's what he does.
This is a great, yes.
And he's like, maybe like run, maybe don't eat bad foods, maybe eat healthy foods, and then maybe run some more, right? So look at the misapplied, like, just take a pill. And that pill actually might work. It might reduce your appetite, stuff like that. But like, is your system getting healthier?
Yeah.
Is your system getting healthier? And then here's the other thing. So let's go to the movie people. Criteria. Okay. Is this movie entertaining, funny, and awesome? Okay, the audience might say yes, but does it have the wrong actor in it? Critics say, nope, this isn't of the political agenda.
Yep.
That's not what I was judging it about. I just thought it was hilarious and awesome.
Yeah.
You're putting these other filters on that don't apply. But you've watched a bunch of movies, you read it for written for papers. Your criteria is different.
Yes.
So that's where it might not be applicable.
Last part of the article. Where did we get such horrid architecture? The same place we get most of what is horrid in modern life, academia. Poll after poll reveals that the American public overwhelmingly prefers classical architecture over modern, but this falls in the deaf ears of the woke elite. Or perhaps they do not. They do hear but choose to punish us. The more the public objects to modern architecture, the more elites celebrate and encourage it. The woke elite make us say modern architecture is beautiful, or at least force us to hold our tongue, while our own eyes tell us it is verifiably ugly. Like totalitarian regimes everywhere, the woke regime is training us to accept its version of reality, which includes the denial that there is an abiding standard of beauty. This is criminal. In some good news, President Trump, commonsensical, independent, and generally unimpressed by experts, issued an executive order near the end of his term that encouraged federal buildings be constructed in a classical style. Naturally, modernists rose up in a righteous indignation, calling classical architecture racist and white supremacist. Surprise, surprise, the architecture lobby published an absurd open letter that sounds like a parody of wokeism, but sadly is deadly serious. Quote, neoclassicism in the United States, U.S., is directly related to the construction of whiteness. It was whiteness that sought after in the many plantation houses that choose... Are you following the link so you can tell me where it's from? That chose the style, justifying it as an emulation of ancient Greek culture to separate themselves from the indigenous peoples whose land was stolen and the enslaved African people forced to build and work in them. The Trump administration's chosen style glorifies an imperialist, colonialist, and white supremacist past. Where's the article from?
It's literally called the Architecture Lobby. So I think they just hijacked that name and think that they're talking for everyone.
For everybody.
But this relates back to what you were talking about before. The law of polarity.
Perfect.
So I can actually consider, like, I know why Trump did that. It makes sense why Trump did that. But he's actually just swinging the pendulum to the other way, where that's not the answer. Because I could see Clifford Still style buildings, like, that's a federal building? Oh, I would love it. Obviously, like the classical ones, the old Penn Station that you saw are good examples. But I think that's the big lesson that I would give to the readers is that if you swing so far to the left, don't be surprised that there's a backslash that swings so far to the right. Now, does that mean that that's correct? No, but that's how, like, the pendulum, like, that's the only way the pendulum can go. Because if it swings so far to the left and you only pull back to the center, then all of a sudden, like, it just stays. And the literal equations of physics is like, okay, now the pendulum is just swinging on that side, right? So there's the law of polarity coming into existence here with architecture because banal, sexless, oppressive buildings were made and championed by experts who are applying a different set of criteria than the public.
And with that, let's bring the staff down for a little A.R.E. Jeopardy.
Question number 1. Which of the following building materials is primarily composed of hydrate calcium sulfate? Is it A, concrete, B, steel, C, brick, D, gypsum board. Hydrated calcium sulfate. C. Incorrect. D. Gypsum. Question 2. Which architectural style is characterized by its emphasis on an open floor plan, integration with nature, and use of natural materials like wood and stone? Is it A. Gothic, B. Art Deco, C. Modernism, D. Craftsman? We have Craftsman, Modernism, Craftsman. Yep, and natural, because you got to combine them all. Craftsman can have open floor plans.
Absolutely. What's her name? That the house that's in our portfolio, literally. I forget what it's called. Colorado Craftsman.
That's what we call it.
There you go. I right? I'm pretty sure. Yeah. My turn.
Yep.
Number 3. Which 2 insurance policies will cover an architecture firm's losses, including revenue and production time? Is it A? So which 2 insurance policies will cover an architecture firm's losses, including revenue and production time? Is it A, workers' compensation insurance, B, commercial property insurance, C, business income insurance, D, professional liability insurance, E, general liability insurance, F, employee health insurance?
Which of those 2?
Yes. Will it cover an architecture firm's losses?
What were B and C?
I'm going to read them all again. A, workers' compensation insurance. B, commercial property insurance. C, business income insurance. D, professional liability insurance. E, general liability insurance. F, employee health insurance. Correct answer is B and C, commercial property insurance, and C, business income insurance. Do you know why? This is not a next question. Just curious if you guys know this. Why do you think commercial property insurance would cover that? Thank you, Al.
Because if your building burns down,
Thank
then
you.
you can't do things.
You got it. Number 4, a managing principal wants to decrease the utilization of senior design associates in favor of assigning them a greater share of business development. The managing principal is now determining the tasks that should be required of senior design associates in order to align with this redirection of their efforts. Which of the following should senior design associates be required to attend? Is it A, staff meetings, B, executive? So there's, by the way, which 3 of the following should senior design students, design associates be required to attend? A, staff meetings, B, executive meetings, C, consultant sessions, D, coordination sessions, E, redline work sessions, F, project design meetings. So, again, a managing principal wants to decrease the utilization of senior design associates in favor of assigning them a greater share of business development. The managing principal is now determining that the task should be required of senior design associates in order to align with this redirection of their efforts. Which of the following should the senior design associates be required to attend? 3. Which 3 of the following? A, staff meetings, B, executive meetings, C, consultant sessions, D, coordination sessions, E, redline work sessions, and F, project design meetings.
Can you read the whole thing one more time?
I'm not going to do that. This was not ChatGPT. This was literally from NCARB adjacent stuff.
What ABD?
Dang, you were close, Ross. You were really close.
It's so close that I got it.
No. I wish. Because you did ABD.
You said 3, but it oh, wait. Okay, gotcha. Lance.
You see
yep,
it.
Yep,
You
yep,
see
yep.
it. Yeah. Sorry.
ABF?
Yes! What did you do? Awesome.
Okay.
I'm okay with the hint because I wanted somebody to get that right.
Okay, read what A is.
A is staff meetings,
B.
executive meetings, and
F.
F, project design meetings. Makes sense to me, actually.
And then consultant sessions, I understand why not. Coordination sessions is a maybe. Red line work sessions. Red line's like, yeah, that's not management. Okay, who won?
Oh, we have a tiebreaker.
Ooh.
Ready?
Yep.
So here's the way a tiebreaker works. You just whoever writes down the answer quickest or raises their hand. What are we doing?
Or if you say it.
Or just say it. You
But
can
then,
just-
but then, if you don't get it right, the other person gets a turn before you can say it.
Yes. You can't just go blah, blah, blah. An interior bearing wall inside a Type 2A building is required to have a fire resistance rating of not less than how many hours? Correct.
How did you not know that, Jake? How did you not know
How
that?
dare you?
How dare you?
Looks like you're working tomorrow. We're rest of us are going on to Christmas. Fun. Oh, cool. Yeah, if you like this episode, if you're listening to this episode, leave on YouTube, leave us a 5-star review, subscribe, all the good stuff. This will be the last time you'll hear our voices on this show for 2023. We'll see you in 2024.